Chapter 21. Othello and Desdemona. The slow dying rays of the early summer sun still lighted the house when Othello entered. Emily sat alone on a bench near the fireplace where the food was being kept warm on the banked coals. "In a horror," she greeted him. "Where is Desdemona?" he demanded. Emily pointed with her head toward the back. "In the garden." Othello visibly relaxed. "She has been here all day?" Emily nodded. "Have there been any visitors?" "None." "What do you mean by these questions? Your suspicions choke the air." "Michael Cassio has not been here today?" "He has not." "Yesterday, when I saw the two of them sitting together, in the garden on the castle ground, what did they speak of?" "Nothing except his remorse at having disgraced himself and lost your respect." "Did they ever whisper?" "Never." "Did they ever ask you to move out of hearing's range?" "Never." "Not even on the pretense of getting her gloves, a fan? Nothing?" "Never." "And would you tell me the truth, Ashaki?" Tears came to her eyes. "I do not know you. I knew once a man who looked like you, remarkably so. Enihara was his name, and such a man he was. If he had been younger, or I had been older, who knows? This man could look on the face of any man and any woman and see a goodness others overlooked. Even his enemies wanted to call him friend. But you I do not know. You look on goodness and see evil. You gaze at innocence and call it sin. You behold purity and declaim perdition." Othello looked at her with disdain. "I ask a question and receive a sermon. The fact you did not answer simply is answer enough." He turned and walked out of the house and back to the garden. "My lord," Desdemona said excitedly on seeing him, "I am so glad you have come home for supper. I have missed you." She moved toward him, arms open, but slowed her step, then lowered her arms as she saw the anger in his face. "What is it, my lord? What is it, my lord?" he mocked her. "Why do you hurt me so?" "I understand a fury in your words, but not the words." "What are you?" he asked coldly. "Your wife, my lord, your true and loyal wife." "Swear you are honest," he roared suddenly. "Heaven knows it. Heaven knows you are false as hell." "To whom, my lord? With whom? How am I false?" "Desdemona," he cried out, "how could you? If it had pleased God to try me with afflictions, if God had rained all kinds of sores and shames on my head, steeped me in poverty to the very lips, made captive my body and all my hopes, I would have been able to find a drop of patience somewhere in my soul. But in your soul I have stored my heart, and given you the power by which I live or die, and it is there the rodents come in and tear holes in the sacks, leaving the grain to trickle out and rot." He looked at her, his eyes glazed with tears. "You are so beautiful. My senses ache at the very sight of you. How I wish you had never been born." Desdemona looked up at him, her eyes pleading. "What sin have I committed against you?" "What sin?" he asked, incredulous, his rage returning. "What sin, you ask? How could you not know? Heaven must close its nose and the moon shuts its eyes. The promiscuous wind that kisses all it meets is still. And you dare ask what sin you have committed." She shook her head sadly. "Heaven knows you do me wrong. You have been faithful to me, as faithful as the sun to its track around the earth. You lie so smoothly. Leave me. I cannot bear to look on your face any longer. Leave me." Desdemona looked at him, but he would not return her gaze. Tears filled her eyes as she tried to understand. Was it not part of the nature of things that dark clouds, lightning, and thunder gave warning of an impending storm? But she had seen no clouds, nor winced at a flash of lightning or shuddered at the roll of thunder. Yet the sun was hidden from view, and the wind was chilly, while the sky was denuded of clouds. She wanted to speak, but did not know the words that could turn anger to melody. Even if she had known and had spoken them, she feared he would have closed his ears like the castle gates, being shut against an onrushing enemy. She walked slowly from the garden and into the house, her head bowed. "What's the matter with my lord?" Emily asked her. "With who?" "With my lord, madam." "Who is your lord?" Desdemona asked blankly. "He that is yours." "I have none. My mother once had a maid called Barbara. She was in love. The one she loved became mad and left her. Barbara sang a song, and it was on her lips as she died. I cannot get that song out of my mind tonight. The poor soul sat sighing by a sycamore tree. Sing all a green willow. Her hand on her bosom, her head on her knee. Sing willow, willow, willow. The fresh streams ran by her and murmured her moans. Sing willow, willow, willow. Her salt tears fell from her and softened the stones. Sing willow, willow, willow. Sing all a green willow must be my garland. Let nobody blame him. His scorn I approve. No, that's not how it goes. She stopped and listened. What is that knocking I hear? She asked, her voice hollow and distant. It is the wind, Emily said, though she had heard nothing. Desdemona resumed singing. I called my love false love, but what said he then? Sing willow, willow, willow. If I court more women, you'll couch with more men. My eyes itch, Emily. Does that mean I am going to cry? Emily was not sure she herself was not going to cry. It is neither here nor there. You know more about men than I. Tell me, please, are there women who are untrue to their husbands? Emily nodded. There are some, no question. Would you do such for all the world? Wouldn't you? Desdemona shook her head emphatically. No, by this heavenly light. Emily chuckled. Nor I neither by this heavenly light, but I might do it in the dark. Desdemona did not see the humor. Would you be untrue for all the world? She asked again, spreading her arms wide as if to summon the entire world. The world's a huge thing. It is a great price for a small vice. Desdemona smiled then. I don't think you would. Emily demurred. I am not sure. I would not do such a thing for gowns or petticoats or jewelry, but for the whole world. I dare say I would risk your purgatory for that. Damn me to hell if I would do such a wrong for the whole world. If you really want to know what I think, well, I think it is their husbands' faults, if wives are untrue. It is they who curdle the milk with their suspicions and jealousies. It is they who want to keep us locked away from an admiring eye or a covetous and innocent smile. It is they who strike us when we will not take the bridles with which they seek to rein us. They do not think we are capable of anger and resentment. They do not think we would seek revenge on them as they would seek revenge on one who injured them in spirit or body. Husbands should know their wives have sense like them. We see and smell, and our palates can taste both sweet and sour, just as husbands. What is it that they do when they put others in our places? Do they do it for sport? For the fun of it? I believe so. Perhaps our affection for them breeds betrayal, for they mistake our gift as their just due, and no longer hold it of value. Or perhaps they wish to be affectionate with whomever pleases their eyes. Or perhaps men are frail, and though they mean well, it is in their nature to err and expect our forgiveness. Are they so unmindful that they do not know that we, too, desire sport? Do they not know that we, too, are frail? Husbands should learn to use us well, else let them know the ills we do, their ills instruct us so. Emily hoped her words would have sparked some light in Desdemona's eyes, but she saw none. It was as if the child had not heard. Good night, Emily. I'll see you in the morrow, either here or in heaven. What do you mean? Emily asked, frightened. Good night, Emily. You must go now. Desdemona kissed her gently on each cheek, and with slow steps went into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Emily stared at the closed door for a moment, then left the house and went slowly toward the castle.